out in the UAE.
25 to 8. Welcome back to the show. It is a Thursday, which means Robbie Greenfield is back alongside myself, Chris McHardy, this evening, and we're joined now by not one but two fellas. They are the ultimate marathon boys. They can have that moniker for free. They are in with us tonight. It's Norriss and James Elliot-Square, aka the Strides for Good fellas, fresh off becoming the first people from the United Arab Emirates to conquer 7 marathons on 7 continents, no less, in 7 days. Not only did they complete the World Marathon Challenge, that encompassed Antarctica, Cape Town, Perth, Dubai, Madrid, Brazil, and finally Miami, but they smashed some records along the way as well. And they may be battered and bruised, but they dragged themselves into our studio tonight. And Robbie, they look in better nick than you and I.
You're surprised by that?
Sofas all week, for goodness sake.
They are in peak physical condition, it's fair to say. But I wonder if you go beneath the hood, how they're holding up. But I know that there was some injuries. I know there were some issues along the way, as to be expected.
Can we just start? Round of applause for these fellas getting the job done. James, Paris, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm loving it. The haunted look. Paris looks as if he's just been in the Maldives for 5 days, sunning himself. James, you are a walking kind of bionic man. You're a broken man. It's a challenge that's, I think, taking maybe a year or two off the life expectancy.
Maybe. On the last race, I had a lot of tape around me.
Did you?
Yeah. So
Stuck together.
So I had KT tape, which is like physio tape, which makes sure your limbs don't fall off in my case. I had it on my right. So I left Achilles. I had my right foot done up. I had a few blisters there as well. My right knee adductor, and my right extender, and then I had, because I was on crutches, I had to have it around my arms as well, with gloves on. So yeah,
you can actually see the marks from the crutches on his arm.
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
We need to get a picture up on social of that. So you are the walking wounded. For again, let's just, I don't even know where to start. Congratulating you both on getting this done.
Thank you.
Paris, remind us, started in Antarctica, of all places.
Antarctica was the big attraction for us to do this. It's a place not many people have been. 120,000 people a year go to Antarctica, but they go to the coasts, usually by boat. Only 250 a year go inland, and that's where we went. And we went in on what's called an Ilyushin 76, which is a Soviet aircraft. You may remember there was one parked down in Omar Quain.
Yes.
Right. Usually used to...
Is it the same one?
It might well be.
To be honest, it felt like that when we were landing.
Yeah, so they're cargo planes, usually for, moving, arms or something like that.
I remember Rocky Balboa took one to get into deepest, darkest Russia in Rocky 4.
How many people on the plane when you were going in?
We were about 75, and it was funny because... he said to me just as we were, because basically the chairs are bolted to the floor. The toilet is a porta cabin loo that is bolted to the floor. And he said, yeah, we've not tested the plane with this many people on it before. And it wasn't very reassuring. But they said, look, we've taken much heavier things in cargo.
So you land in deepest, darkest Antarctica. How long after are you then at the start line for race number 1 of these 7 marathons in 7 days?
It was about an hour and a half,
wow.
I would say. So we didn't have a lot of time. We had to do a lot of things for sponsors. We wanted to take it in, and then we had to do our warm-up prep, which took me about half an hour.
What was the temperature? What was the outdoor temperature?
-10 plus wind factor. So it was actually quite nice. We were expecting up to -25, so we were actually quite happy about that.
Quite warm.
And and the sun was out, properly high, because it was lunchtime, and it was actually quite nice. So when we were going downhill with the wind, it was actually quite warm. When you're going uphill into the wind, because we had really good what do they call it?
Well, we had underlayers on, so we had this company called Fusion which sponsored us, which are from Denmark, and they make gear just for endurance skiers and things like this. So we were kitted out in all the gear. We were trying to figure out what's the right amount to be wearing, because the idea is to have lots of layers, because if it gets really cold you can put them on, and if you feel like you need to take them off you can just get rid of them.
So we went really well prepared. We had all the gear, probably no idea, and when we had to do laps, so it's a big triangle. Each lap was about 2.2 miles, so it was about 11 laps, wasn't it?
Yeah,
maybe a bit less. but there was a hill, and this hill was 2 kilometers of hill. But you start it, and you can see the plain tail in the foreground.
What's the topography? Is it you on a flat plain, or are you?
No, so you think you would expect Antarctica to be flat, but it's actually quite hilly. But there's no contours apart from a few mountains in the distance, so you can't really.
Everything's white, obviously.
Everything's white, exactly.
Yeah.
Apart from blue ice, where you've got to be careful where you put your foot on.
And you can't tell, like, you know that the ice is thick, but are you on 2 meters of ice, or are you on like 6 kilometers of ice? You don't know.
Yeah.
My lord. So,
Oh my word.
how long did it take you? Because obviously, spoiler alert, you did it.
Yeah.
What kind of time did we
So
get up to?
I was quite happy with my time. So you're meant to do about an hour more than, or an hour to an hour and 10 more than your normal marathon time. I did it in 4:30. Hadn't trained
So
for
wait,
10 weeks.
You were running, I take it.
Yeah, I was running. So I started off, the physios at BPC got me really into the right place. So I started off and I was thinking, I've got this, you know. So it ended in 4:30, got in, had some good feed in me, got changed, and I was quite happy. I was thinking, this is brilliant, you know. And then Paris came in, about half an hour later?
Yeah, so I came in just over 5 hours, and I remember saying to James at the start, slow it down, mate, slow it down. Because, like, I know he's got an injury and I'm finding it difficult to keep up with him. But by the last lap, the never-ending hill of death just became... If you ever watched Gladiators and they got the Travelator at the end, that's what it was. It was you just slipping backwards and you're seeing the plane get further away from you.
Yeah.
And it was it was very, very difficult.
Still, I'll say it to you both, 4.5 and 5 hours in the Antarctica. Bloody well
But the
done.
difference was that
incredible.
half an hour to 35 minutes was huge because the sun was coming down. So it never sets, but it goes below the horizon. And as the sun comes down, it just gets colder and colder and colder. And you came in, and I was like all toasty and eating lots of carbs and stuff. It was like a gourmet meal. And you came in, and you were literally couldn't speak.
Yeah,
it
I
was
had,
extraordinary.
Like, frost on my beard. It
And
was.
I was
I had some good advice from a guy who said, if I were you, get out of your clothes and into something dry immediately because you'll freeze. And that was basically the case. Yeah.
So wait, your perspiration was freezing on you.
Yeah.
Is that basically what happened?
Sweat, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't run in shorts, I'm assuming.
No, long leggings. We've got a few layers on. We've got a hood that goes over, and all the time had a buff over the face and ski goggles. So there wasn't a centimeter of skin showing. Also, we were told, do not take your goggles or your sunglasses off because it will burn your retina. It's very, very, very
the reflection.
bright there.
So you're in, having your feed, you get in, you strip off, you get into dry clothes, you have a feed, and then how quickly are you then back on that big cargo plane to
Quicker
get out
than
of
I
there?
wanted. to
Yeah,
be
I would
honest.
say it was probably no more than, again, an hour and a half. There was still, and the reason why is there were still other people running. So what ended up happening is they loaded us all on the plane. At least we had something to eat. The few people who were still left out there running got shuttled straight away, straight onto the.
Because you've got to get going.
Yeah, you got to get. And by that time, that was about -15, -20. That was very cold.
And I swear there were more people on the plane back than there were on the way there.
I think there were.
You picked up some stragglers.
Yeah, they're like,
They were
"We
just
don't
some
wanna be here
holiday
anymore."
makers. You were like, yeah, I'll take a lift.
No, I think there actually were because there were workers who were
Right.
at the base camp who came back. Yeah,
And then that flight takes you to where? Cape Town?
It does.
How long's that flight?
5.5.
5.5 hours.
So
But-
nothing really.
But here's the thing: 5.5 hours in a cargo plane is very loud, even when you've got earplugs in. Very, very loud. It's not your Emirates. It's
No.
not even like Emirates
You're
economy.
not kicking back.
Yeah, this isn't even
the
fly to buy.
A380.
This is not comfortable seating.
And no one's had a shower, so those earplugs aren't
Lord.
really being used for your
Yeah.
ears. They're using for your nostrils.
Yeah.
Oh,
honestly.
Lord.
Probably
That
the
is-
worst thing I could ever wish upon anybody is to be put with 75 people who've just run a marathon in a tiny space. The smell is not great. It's not great.
Oh, Lord. And this
Wow.
I
this
wasn't
is the
sitting
thing
next to Paris, put it that way.
that blew my mind. From finishing that race in Antarctica to then being on the start line for race 2, Marathon 2 in Cape Town.
Yeah.
15 hours.
Yeah. I mean, it is bonkers when you think about it.
So did you get any quality rest between the two?
So the kicker was the organisers decided to bring forward the marathon by an hour in Cape Town. So that, we were thinking, at least we're going to get back to our hotel room. We're going to be able to get maybe a half an hour power nap. No, straight in. We were stressed then from that moment we
I bet
landed.
you were.
We were in a different hotel, so we had to go and get all our stuff, check out, get down to the start line. And with my pre-injury, I had a set routine that I needed to do to get ready for a marathon. Didn't have that time. Didn't even have a chance to foam roll. Didn't have a chance to really tape up properly. And that's what led to what...
Well, let's go there. So Paris has got the cigars out. He's on race 2. He's off. Race 2 for you was arguably one of the most difficult things you've ever had to do, I would imagine.
Yeah, I probably have a bit of PTSD on it, to be honest. It was hard. We started off together. I said, look, I want to take this one a bit slower, because I could feel when I started just putting a bit of energy into my legs, I was like, that doesn't feel right. And straight away I said, this doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, I looked at him run. I said, mate, you're running like a block of wood. He was so stiff. I was like, take it easy. And then you ran for a bit, but then shortly afterwards you were reduced to sort of hobbling, walking, and luckily we had our sponsors there, the Brain Performance Centre, who had come over to support us for medical, anything that we needed on that side of things. So they managed to click their fingers and get crutches.
I mean, I shouted over because it was a loop again. All of these were loops. So I was coming past, and I think it was on my second loop, I shouted across, say, can I do this on crutches? Because I knew at that stage I still had, was it 6 laps of Cape Town?
I think so.
It felt like that, and it felt a lot more, to be honest. And I shouted across, I said, look, can I do this on crutches? Because I can't put weight through my right leg. It was every time I did, even when walking, it was like a dagger going through the left part of my knee into the center and someone twisting it. That's the only description I can give it. And I was, without any exaggeration, I was in tears because I was feeling like I was letting people down, letting the charity down, and I just wanted to complete it. I really wanted to do that, and I was like, I need to find a way to get through this. They said yes, so then within not even half a lap, a quarter of a lap, they managed.
I wouldn't have asked for crutches. I'd have asked for a bike. You went low with the crutch request,
and then got the crutches, and it whilst it was like a relief because it was taking a lot of the pressure off my leg. I was like, I still got to do 4 laps of this course. So yeah,
and each lap was like 4.5 miles or so.
Yeah, so it was about an 8-kilometer loop. Yeah.
So that's you on crutches. What does that do to you mentally now, Paris? Because, of course, James is your wingman. You're both doing this together. And all of a sudden, we're at race 2, and he's already on crutches.
I'm like, well, hey, I might win this one.
We're not competitive at all.
Don't want to kick him out while it's down. But I was
You
complaining
have half a chance.
Yeah.
I was complaining to the organisers, saying these are facilitating him.
Well, just wait until we come on to the later races, then we'll really find out who's quickest.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
So I just basically tried to keep pace. It was a difficult thing for me because in the first race, it was difficult to understand how you pace yourself when you're in Antarctica because it's not the same conditions. So I understood it was going to be a bit slower, but it was even slower than I expected. Now I'm back in normal conditions and I'm running and everything seems to be fine, but I'm then factoring in, well, I've never run a marathon a day after running a marathon. This is not the same. Everything I had factored in was like, no, it's fine. I can pace it, not too far off my usual marathon time, but turned out that I can't do it like that. Actually, you have to reduce it quite considerably. So I'm battling in my head with this concept in my head of times and paces and things like this. And then I'm realizing, why? Like, what am I? I'm not doing this to get my fastest marathon time. No, it's not about how fast I run these marathons. It's about getting to the end, right? And if anybody ever asks me my marathon time, I can run a singular marathon pretty good. So I'll that's what I'll boast about in terms of times.
That's it.
So I'm trying to change my mindset in terms of how I was looking at these marathons. And I remember just before we went off to Antarctica, I got a message from Ollie Amos, who was my friend from school who I rode the Pacific with. He was the captain of our boat for the Pacific, and he said, remember, mate, it's not about times or positions, it's about enjoying the experience, which is what we learnt together doing the row. And I know it very well, and there I am still telling myself that I need to keep up with my expectations of how I should be running. So quickly my mind had shifted by the end of the Cape Town race.
That is the voice of Paris Norriss. We've got James Elliot-Square in as well. It is the ultimate marathon boys, is what I've labelled them as. Well, the Strides for Good fellas is who they are. We've spoken to them a lot over the last few weeks, and for good reason. They were bidding, they were planning, they were plotting 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. They've survived to tell the tale. They're in with us now, and just want to pick up the conversation that we were having before the break. So you've managed to get in and out of Antarctica. You've gone to Cape Town. James, you're now using crutches, and then you've got to board a plane again and get on down to Perth, Australia. It's at this point you were saying, James, that your body just said, 12 hours, Kip, a little bit broken in between. You needed it, right?
Yeah, like straight after Cape Town, because I took so long, I think I was the last finisher in Cape Town because I was on crutches. Of course. Which wasn't great for morale, knowing I had another 5 to go.
And did you do the rest on crutches?
We'll come on to that.
Okay. Okay.
So then finished there, and literally they were packing up all the kit, and basically we had about 20 minutes to have a shower in what I will say was one of the worst showers I've ever had in my life. Not only were I excruciating pain, but it was an awful room, wasn't it? It was like a cabin or something, wasn't it?
I don't remember. And then that was in Cape Town?
Yeah, and then we had to get to the airport by Uber because they'd left already because they weren't prepared to wait for us. Had no food, and then so we got onto the plane, and then pretty much we ate and then went to sleep, didn't we?
Yeah, because we hadn't slept until that point. We'd run 2 marathons, no sleep. We were like, you've never wanted to be on a plane so much in your life, because we were like, we're going to finally get to lie down. And it was a 15-hour flight to Australia. So we were really looking forward to that, and actually that saved us. That was actually well-needed rest.
So when you said they wouldn't wait, the other runners?
The organisers, not the runners. The runners, I've never met such a nice bunch of people in all my life.
You're all in it together, right?
We are all in it together, but previous runners and groups apparently have had a few cliques or a few people who are having a few disagreements as you're getting tired and you're having you're a bit narky, but every single person in our group was fantastic.
Right. But so did the organisers not have an obligation to wait for you?
They said, I don't know whether it's an obligation.
No, effectively it was, these are the times the flights are going, be on them or miss it, because they can't hold it up for everybody. But they obviously moved with a little bit of extra time, and we were able to make up time, so we needed to jump in we opted to take a bit of extra time and head there ourselves.
You get down under Perth. I mean, I'm conscious there are 7 of these marathons. We're only at marathon 3. In terms of Perth, that experience, give us it in a nutshell.
Great welcome, proper Aussie welcome, wasn't it?
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, the Aussies, they all walk around with this look on their face, like they're constantly excited.
Or surprised.
Yeah. And they're just so happy to be there. I thought it was just Chris Fade that was like this, but the whole country has this look on their face of just being constantly like
G'day, mate.
G'day, fella. Would you like an ice spot, mate? And like just they were so
infectious.
They were pleased to be part of what we were doing, and just everyone, they felt honoured to be involved, and that was so nice.
So at the airport, they met us with an inflatable kangaroo, like as you would, and I thought it was like the organisers.
Were you like, can I ride that thing? Can I just that bounce?
Does he move? Yeah, but I thought it was the organisers, but it was this Australian guy that turned up to the airport and
with the hat and everything.
Yeah, proper hat, like Crocodile Dundee style.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke. I was like, you mean this is how you really are over here?
But I thought it was an organiser. You asked him, are you always like this? And they go, yeah, mate. What else would you expect?
And then you're straight again. You're landing, and within an hour and a half, 90 minutes, you're on the start line.
Yeah. But the sun was just setting as we got in, so it's a nighttime run.
And did that help?
Probably.
Not for me.
Well, so forget jet lag. You were just running when you landed.
Pretty much.
It didn't really matter what time of day it was.
Yeah. So it didn't matter what time of day it was, what the jet lag was. Perth was quite humid and quite warm, so running through the night was probably helpful, but not when you've got crutches and you can't see. It was very dark there, and I've got this great video of James, because they need to sort out their irrigation systems because the sprinklers just fire across the path. So I got a video of James with crutches just being hit from every angle by sprinklers.
Well, you're trying to gauge it, right? So you're saying, right, that one is going to come at me at that angle. So if I sort of go a bit slower, it's going to miss me. And then I get through the one of them, and I go, yes, I got it. Bang! Straight into the side of the right-hand side, and then to the left, and then to the right.
And again, you're broken. You're on crutches, and you get to the finish line again within the permitted time.
Just about.
When he got in, he was one of the last ones in, and we were all in the clubhouse because it was at a rugby club. He got the biggest round of applause from everybody because everybody was struggling. We just run 3 marathons. We all know how difficult it is to do what we were doing. And here's a guy who's just done it on crutches.
That's insane. Right, 8 o'clock is here. We're going to keep the boy for another 15 minutes. We've got Dubai, then we've got Madrid, Brazil and Miami to come on this just incredible journey. If you are just tuning in, these fellas in the last 10 days or so have completed 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. They have traversed Antarctica, Cape Town. We've ticked off Perth and all their weird idiosyncrasies. And we're now back home in Dubai, James, and you're up at Expo.
Yeah. This saved me. It really did. Cape Town, injured, going through the emotions, every emotion you can think of. Perth, horrendous, in the dark, on crutches, only just managing to finish it in time. But in the back of my mind, knowing I had the physios who knew my body, who had been working on me for the last 10 weeks prior, they managed to really have a good half an hour on my leg prior to the run, which enabled me to have the confidence not to use the crutches.
Ooh.
Okay, so then I went out on no crutches. Paris and I set off together. Paris had a bit of TLC as well, and we both managed to get through it until the last 5K. So about every loop was about 8K roughly, or maybe a little bit less. I had basically a physio for about 10-15 minutes each lap.
Did you?
And it was getting me going until the last lap, where it was horrendous.
I was going to say, before we get into the race, there was a part of this story that I think is quite interesting, because we just had this nice experience in Australia. Lovely people, so welcoming. And I said to James on the plane, I was like, I really hope that Dubai welcomes us in the same way, because, like, you know, I'd be really let down. I wonder how. I was just wondering, you know, I was.
It's our home race.
Yeah,
right?
It's our home race. I'm proud to invite everybody. We've been talking about it. And I'm like, you know, I just can't imagine we're going to have the same love that they had in Australia. Like, they really, like, I bet most of the people that were there from Australia weren't even paid to be there. They just wanted to be part of it. So I was like, are we going to have that same love in Dubai? Because, you know, it's one of these places, it's very efficient. Yeah. It's very, very, you know, service with a smile. But sometimes you don't always have that kind of... The soul. Anyway, we arrive in the private jet terminal of JetX, picked up by a Tesla Cybertruck, an orange one, rolled in with some Rolls Royces. We come into the JetX FBO. There's 3 Lamborghinis waiting for us. Cocktails on serve. The toilet
has Australia.
The toilet has more functions on it than a rocket, right? And everybody was just gobsmacked, and I was like, you know what, James, they might not have the love, but they've got the wow factor just sussed.
And then there you go, you're shipped in, you're driven into Expo, get back on that start line, and you get the job done. And again, I keep reiterating this, because you finish up, then you're back on a plane. You're now bound for Madrid.
So we were lucky on this regard, because Dubai, we had a bit of a longer layover. So the plane didn't leave till 4 a.m. So because I've been on crutches the whole time, I thought, again, this is going to be another 8-hour misery. Luckily, I didn't, and I finished it in 5:15. If it hadn't been for the last 5K breaking down, I had to walk.
You did it in 5:15.
Yeah, without crutches. But if I hadn't broken down on that last 5K, it'd probably been a 4.5, and I'd have been really happy with that, considering everything, right? But that enabled us to get to the Brain Performance Center to do an hour of oxygen hyperbarics. Further, another 2 hours of massage, of deep tissue massage, which really helped my leg going into Madrid. So that, and then it saved you as well.
My body was breaking down by then. It was a strange shift. James had sort of come off the crutches, and I was about to get ready to go on them. My calves had become like bricks, and luckily we had the physios there. I had 2 physio sessions during the race, right? So whilst I'm running, I'm like, I can't go on anymore, and they sorted me right out. And then got zipped in lightning speed, and we had planned this to the second to come down to the hyperbaric chamber, pressurized chambers, 100% oxygen, physiotherapy taking place whilst I'm in there, whilst I'm stuffing pasta down my throat, and and then we were out, boom, clothes on, gone, and back on the plane. It was incredible.
Well, right now we're into the kind of business end of this challenge.
Yeah.
What are your other competitors? I mean, there's you on crutches. Are you seeing now sites where men and women are broken mentally and physically at this point?
So physically, let's go to mentally. Mentally, everyone's in good spirits. Everyone's in the same boat, right? People are getting injured. People are tired, but we're all keeping our spirits up. There are some opera singers. There's some. It's actually quite good. Physically, they nearly ran out of ice on that plane. The amount of ice that was being put on joints here, there, and everywhere was outrageous. What I would say is that the food wasn't thought of that well.
No.
But everyone
Not
just
by them, but by us it was.
Yeah, but everyone just got on with it, I think. So I think in general, I think everyone really just understood that this isn't normal circumstances, and you got to get through it.
You were telling us off air, Paris, one of the blokes, his back just caved in.
Yeah, so that hit in Madrid, so that's the next race. And I suppose that's when a lot of injuries started
flaring up.
Yeah, exactly. And his back went, and he ran the whole race sort of crooked. And I mean, and I stopped and said, "Don't do anything that's going to damage you permanently."
Yeah,
he was literally.
Yeah.
I mean,
so he's a doctor.
Yeah, that's the thing. So he knew better than me, and then there's me giving him advice about his health.
Dr. Paris.
Yes, exactly. But
of love.
Yeah, but it's a very strange thing, because it turned out that that's actually fairly common in endurance sports. Is one side of your back will go, usually something to do with dehydration, or I'm not sure the science. But at least 4 or 5 other people by the time we got to Miami were a bit crooked.
I think it's got to be core strength as well. But so we were running that race in the old F1 Yorama.
Yes.
And I mean, I didn't really understand that F1 tracks weren't flat. Like, I knew they were up and down, but I didn't realise they were curved so dramatically. So every time you're running, very rarely was it flat. It was always a curve to keep the centrifugal force of the car to go around the corner. So that's why his back started doing that, and that's why I think a lot of injuries happen to a lot of people.
It might be a strange question, this, but was it a little bit like the festive period between Christmas and New Year? I've got no Scooby what day it is. I don't know if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I just know it's Boxing Day, it's the 27th, and New
Chris
Year's
is equating running 7 marathons in 7 days.
But you know what I'm getting at, because you're on and off of planes. When you're at the start line, do you know what day it is?
It's exactly like Christmas, because you're eating as much as you can every time that you can. You're walking wonky.
You're not running 26 miles every
I don't want to come around your house for Christmas if that's what you're eating.
And you don't know which day. So we couldn't pin down. There's no point us like trying to figure out which hour it was, because we weren't adjusting to any time. So we had to figure out just the time in between races. So we knew when we land, we have maybe
2 hours or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. 2 hours till we got to start running, and then we got an hour and a half afterwards. So we just had to pin it in a linear fashion.
Mental.
So Madrid and Fortaleza were my favourites.
Brazil, of course, Fortaleza.
Yeah. So Madrid was my favourite because I was on crutches, and Paris wasn't. And what times did we do, Paris?
Right, let me explain this. I'm taking my time. I'm realizing James is ahead of me. I'm thinking, you know what? I'll catch him up so we can finish this together.
That's
you
just
know,
not
like
true.
a great photo together, strides for good.
You hadn't finished a race together at this point.
No. And so I'm running to
you
catch
were a
him
lap
up.
ahead of me. You were a lap ahead of me.
Was I?
Yeah, and you had taken a nice leisurely break, as you do generally every
Real
lap.
tortoise and hare.
You were having, I don't know, I think you were just showering yourself with champagne or something, thinking, oh, I've beaten him again. and I was running with a co-competitor, and he was helping me through. He was injured as well on his knee, and we were going at the same pace. And I was actually going, do you know what, I feel quite good on these crutches, right? Let's up it a bit. So I upped it a bit, and then my brother, who had surprised me, had arrived in Madrid, surprised me, and he said, "You're not that far behind Paris. You know, you've got probably about an 8-minute." And so I think we had about 4 laps to go, and by the 3rd lap to go, he was there, just showering himself in champagne, eating caviar or whatever he was doing.
It was the oranges that were delicious.
And then I said, right, let's do this. And I powered through, and he's seen this orange, and he goes, "How many laps have you got?" And I said, 2, and his face just went from fully like I'm enjoying this to
You've caught up with me.
goodness, I've got to catch up.
So anyway, so he read off for a bit because I can't remember what we were doing. We were doing something for social media. He ploughed on, right? And I'm thinking, right, I've got half a lap. All right, I'll speed it up and we'll finish this together. And as I'm getting closer, and we've got maybe like 300 meters to go, James looks over his shoulder, sees me, and with his crutches is going like lightning. I'm like, no, James, let's just finish this again. And if you've ever seen that clip of Forrest Gump being chased by the bullies, when he, right, that's what it looked like. He was in his crutches, just going super fast.
I'm just going to put it out there, world record. So,
I pushed him to a world record. Yeah,
You did a world record marathon on crutches.
so that was 5:40, and then when we fast forward to Fortaleza, and then I broke that one as well.
So Brazil, I've got to skip past Brazil. That is the penultimate race. It's hot, it's humid. You get there, and then you fly to Miami. It's day 7, the 7th marathon. You're into North America. Another continent has been ticked off, and then you get the job done. The euphoria that you must have both felt. I mean, you're in agony. You were probably in agony as well, Paris. But can you explain to us what that feeling is like?
Someone asked me that this morning, and it's a weird thing because for me, I visualize these things so that I feel the script is already written and I'm just now acting it out. So for me, it was just like I always felt like I'm just where I am doing what I should be doing. So yes, it was great. Obviously, it's nice to be done with it. When I heard that I went through the finish line just before James, and they said, that was the fastest that anyone has ever done until that day. So the whole group of us had done it in less than 6 days. Obviously, the plan was to do it in 7 days. I did it in 5 days, and I believe it was 19 hours. So. So that and previously the fastest was 6 days and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
So the logistics of it all meant that you didn't just do this in 7 days. You did 7 marathons, 7 continents in 5 hours and 5 days, and 19 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get my tattoo changed.
You need to update it.
Yeah, but for me, the emotions, all my emotions came out really in Cape Town. Of will I complete this? Who have I let down? I've let myself down, let my family down, charity down, etc. So it was almost an anticlimax in Miami because I knew I was going to get through this. I was in absolute agony. So not only my hands were in pieces, all my legs were as well. So my Achilles was playing up, my knee, my metatarsals, etc. And I felt like I broke something, so I actually went quite easy in Madrid, in Miami for the first 3 laps.
You were on the crutches, I take
Yeah,
it.
I was, yeah. But then the last hour or the last 10K, I was like, do you know what? Let's just power it out. So I powered out the last 10K in under an hour.
That's
so
incredible.
it was good.
Well,
Did
listen,
under
boys,
an hour in crutches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness.
That's adrenaline for you. Listen, fellas, well done. Well done. I mean, a massive McHardy salute to the pair of you.
Incredible.
We've obviously heard your story over the last few weeks building up to this. You're now back, and all jokes aside, you look blooming marvellous, both of you. Congratulations. You've all done it for a good cause as well. Yeah. You still taking donations on that front?
We definitely are. We've got a gala dinner coming up in May so that you can keep donating until then. Let's keep raising as much as possible for the underprivileged children.
I love it. James Elliot-Square, Paris Norriss. Go and get a lie down, an early night, and well done, the pair of you.
Thank
Amazing
you very much.
story.
Thank you.
You'll be hearing a lot more from these boys across the UE, various media outlets. I'm sure. I'm just delighted we were one of the first to get them back in again. Paris and James, well done.